Welcome back to the OBIS Controlled Vocabulary series. In this video, we will learn how to find a P01 code for measurement types related to sampling parameters. This could include descriptions of methodologies, measurements on sampling effort, sampling gears, and sample processing. Some more specific examples include the dimensions of a sampling device, a description of a preservation method, and the name of an instrument. We'll see that all of these measurement types should fall under the same category, sampling parameters. And this will make it easier for us to use the SeaDataNet facet search. However, it will be important to keep in mind that sampling parameter codes have more generic names in order to be able to encompass many possible related measurement types. For example, codes relating to an instrument's height or weight won't have a specific code for a net and a specific code for a grab, but rather will have a more generic name. To demonstrate this, let's take a look at an example. Say we have towed a net through the water to collect plankton samples. There will be at least 6 measurement types related to this sample. The distance the net was towed, the time that the net was towed, the name of the net's height and weight, or the diameter if it was circular, and its mesh size. So let's go now to the SeaDataNet facet search to find P01 codes for each of these measurement types. And as usual, we will use the decision tree to guide us during our search. So looking at our decision tree, of course the first action is to navigate to the SeaDataNet facet search. We are already there. So moving on, the next action is to search for sampling parameter. This will make sure that all of the results displayed are related to sampling parameters. I'm going to type sampling, and then I'm going to scroll down to this subsection of filters, and I'm going to apply the sampling parameters filter. The next step in the tree is what is the measurement property. We'll see that this question is optional, and we have 2 potential options. We can either browse or search by keyword using the free search in order to find our sampling measurement. Of course, always keeping in mind that the code names are generic. Alternatively, we can search through the results since there are not that many to filter through. Because we have 6 different measurement types we're looking for, let's read through the results to identify ones that might be relevant. Right away, we see that the second option, sample duration, is related to our second measurement type, the time a net was towed. So let's go ahead and click on the concept ID and read more about this P01 code. So sample duration is defined as the period of time during which a sample was collected or an observation was made, such as the time a net was towed through the water or duration of a visual census. This of course matches what we're looking for, and so we can copy this URI into our data sheet. Moving back to the search results, we will continue looking through. The next one we come across is the diameter of a sample collector, or the aperture. Well, diameter was one of the options, assuming the net is circular, so let's read this one. Indeed, taking a look at the definition, this is the diameter of the sampling area of a device, such as a net. And of course, the type of device is specified elsewhere. So we're still looking for a P01 related to the type of device. However, this is a P01 code that we can use if we were recording the diameter of the net. And this is our first example of how the codes can be rather generic. So it doesn't say the diameter of a net, but rather the diameter of a sample collector. So we'll copy this URI into our data sheet, and then we'll move back to the search results. Next, we see several options for listing the description of a sampling protocol, a sampling method, preservation method, and an extraction method. We of course can use any of these for further description of different protocols and methods. The next 2 are related to a length of a sampling track. The first one uses a computation which might be too specific for this example. So let's take a look at the more generic one, length of sample track. Indeed, taking a look at the definition, it is the linear distance along which a sample was collected or an observation was made. And it even includes, as an example, the track of a sampling net through water. So again, we'll copy the URI into our data sheet and head back to the search. So we now have 3 of the 6 types of different measurements we're looking for. We still need to find a P01 code for the name of the net, the height and length, and the mesh size. So right away, we can see that the next one is mesh size of sample collector. And there are a few other options as well for a lower sieve or an upper sieve, if those are applicable to your measurement type. And we can even see area, height of sample collector, and width of sample collector. All of these codes are potentially relevant, so let's take a look at their definitions. The definition for mesh size of the sample collector is the average dimension of the holes in the mesh of a sample collecting device, such as a plankton net or a trawl. So we can use this URI for our measurement type net mesh size. And again, pointing out the generic name of this code. It's just referred to as a sample collector. These 2 mesh sizes are related to a sampling processor, which are not directly relevant to this example, but why don't we take a look at the definition of them anyways. So from the definition, we can see that the mesh size of the sampling processor for either the upper or the lower sieve is related to a sieve that was used to sort biological material from a sample. So this could be from a sediment sample. You would use this measurement type and measurement type ID if you had filtered your sample and only used the material that was left in the sieve. Next is the area, height, and width of our sample collector. For our example, let's take a look at the height and width. So for the height of the sample collector, we can see that the definition is the larger dimension of the sampling area of a device that has a rectangular aperture. And similarly, the definition for width of the sample collector is the smaller dimension of a sampling device with a rectangular aperture. And just to contrast, let's look at the area of the sample collector definition. We can see that it's defined as a 2-dimensional size of the opening of a sampling device. So it could be a grab or a trawl. So if we had the mouth area of our plankton net, we could use this URI for our measurement type ID. Returning to our search, the only measurement type we have left is the name of the net. And indeed, right here, we have name of sampling instrument. So taking a look at the definition is simply the name of the gear or instrument used to collect the sample or make the in situ measurement or observation. So in our data sheet for the record pertaining to the name of the sampling instrument, we can use this URI for the measurement type ID. Note that if you want an ID specific to the sampling instrument's name, this would be an identifier associated with the measurement value, and finding identifiers for measurement values is covered in another video. So that covers all of our examples, as we have now found a measurement type ID for each of our 6 measurement types associated with this plankton sampling event. If you have measurements pertaining to sampling parameters that aren't showing up in this specific list, it might be due to differences in the P02 mapping. Sometimes during the creation of these P01 codes, different terms might be mapped to other parts of the collection. So metadata parameters might be an alternative mapping that you might see here. However, the team at BODC does strive to ensure all of the sampling parameters relevant for our OBIS community are mapped to sampling parameters. As always, if you have any difficulties finding codes or need a new code requested, please do not hesitate to make a GitHub request on the OBIS vocabs repository.